All right, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get started. For those of you that haven't met me before, I'm Kelly Kay, and I'm the behavioral specialist that works with the program. What I'm going to have you do is I'm going to be asking you a whole lot of different things to get us started. Now, how I always like to get started with my classes is to just kind of do a feelings check. So this is how many weeks that you guys have been doing this? 4. Okay, so tell me, how are you guys feeling? What's been going on? Anything? Any thoughts and feelings?
Feeling good.
Feeling good? Okay. Stronger. Uh-huh. What else?
Encouraged. Better than others.
Encouraged. Some days better than other. Uh-huh.
Very much so.
Who's struggling? Honestly. Anybody? Good. Good. Thank you. Tell me, what are some of the struggles that you're having? The food. Food and choices.
Portion control. Yeah.
Portion control. Okay. What else? What other struggles are you having?
Weekends. Sore knees.
Sore knees, weekends.
Scales not moving fast.
The scale's not moving fast enough. These are all the things that we all experience, don't we? Okay? Yes?
Trying to get used to eating 5 meals to speed up your metabolism.
Okay, trying to eat 5 meals to get things going. All right, what we're going to talk about tonight is the things that we're thinking about. Believe it or not, every single thought that we are having is creating our destiny. So anything that you think about, you're going to think about. And so when we usually start programs like this, even for those of you that first started this program, how many of you have done things like this in the past? You'd all done diets before and all exercises, right? What were some of the thoughts that you were having initially when you first started this? I hope it works. What else?
This time will be different.
This time is going to be different. What else?
I'm never going back.
I'm never going back. All right. A lot of times, there's so many different thoughts that we think. And believe it or not, whatever we think about, we bring about. Nothing good can come from a negative thought. Nothing. So whatever you're thinking right now, you've got to ask yourself, is this a positive thought that I'm thinking or a negative thought? And whatever that thought is, and we could go around the room and I'm sure everybody would have different kinds of thoughts, but you have to realize that whatever thought that you're thinking, you're going to bring about. So whether that thought be positive or whether that thought is negative, okay? So if you want to be positive with your journey, what do you need to do? Think positive and change those positive thoughts. Why do you think it is that we have not so positive thoughts? We've had bad results in the past. Why else?
We listen to other people.
We listen to other people's thoughts. Exactly. Why do you think we listen to other people's thoughts so much? We care about what people think about us. Why else?
Want approval.
We want approval. What else? It's easier sometimes, isn't it? It's easy to listen to other people rather than think about our own stuff. Okay, would you all stand up? Okay, why did you all stand up? Did I make you stand up? No. Okay, y'all can sit down. How many times, though, do we want to say to ourselves that people make us do things? Now, you didn't have to stand up, did you? What did you do? You stood up, why? I told you to, but ultimately you stood up because it was a choice, wasn't it? So I could come over to you, I could pull your hands, and I could pull you up, but what could you do to me? You could resist me, couldn't you? So whose choice would it be to resist me? Yours. So ultimately, what we have to realize is that nobody can make us do anything, can they? They can ask us to do something, but it's really up to us if we're going to do that. So when we're thinking about our thoughts, what we have to think about is who's responsible for my thoughts? Me. I'm also responsible for my actions and my beliefs. So the first thing that we have to think about is taking responsibility for our own thoughts and feelings. Just like I said to you guys to stand up, it was up to you whether you were going to stand up or not. You make that decision whether you're going to stand up or whatever you're going to do. It's just like when we're kids and somebody say, well, they made me do it. They made me feel this way. Really? How can people dictate and control our feelings and thoughts? Because we let them. So that's a choice, right? So what we have to think about is, what are we thinking? Did I have to come here tonight? Do I have to go to work every day? Why? Do I really have to go to work? No. I choose to go to work. I choose to go to work so I can have money, and I have money so I have choices. It pays for my mortgage, it gives me, food, it gives me, all the different choices in my life. But ultimately, it's a choice, isn't it? Every single thing that I do in life is a choice. I can choose to go to work. I can choose to think the things that I'm thinking. I choose my thoughts. And a lot of times we don't think that we choose our thoughts because it's easier to put them on somebody else. Okay? And somebody had said earlier, we let people dictate how we feel because we don't want to hurt them or because we don't want to upset somebody. But ultimately, nobody can make us feel any certain way. It's really up to us how we're going to choose how to feel. So when we're thinking about different thoughts, we have to say, okay, if I want to think positive, then who is it up to think positive? Me. It's ultimately up to me. I am responsible. I want you guys to remember this little acronym that I have. It's called TFAB. T-F-A-B. And it stands for thoughts, feelings, actions, and beliefs. So when you think about it, I want you to say, I am responsible for how I think, how I feel, how I act, and what I believe. I am the only one responsible for those things. Nobody can make me feel any certain way. It's really up to me. Okay? What I want you to think about is how many of you have anger issues or resentments that you hold on to? How many of you have resentments? I see somebody, way a lot of hands. Why do you think that we hold on to resentments? We choose to. Why else? A lot of times we choose to hold on to resentments because we like to blame that person, don't we? If we put that finger out at them and it's their fault why we feel the way we feel, don't we? So if I blame all of you and all of you are responsible for my feelings, does it feel good to be responsible for how I feel? No. So what we have to think about is, why am I allowing somebody else to control how I feel? So a resentment is me holding on to something against somebody else that they probably have no idea that I'm mad at. Okay? Now I really want you guys to do this for me because it's a really cool example. Take your thumbnail and shove it into your finger. Okay? How does that feel? It hurts. Okay? Do you see that the top of your finger is pretty red? Yeah? Do you like feeling this way? No. You like it? Keep holding on to it for a second. How's it feeling now? Okay, who's tired of holding on to their finger? So what can you do? Let it go. Okay, now when you let it go, rub your finger a little bit. Does it still hurt? A little bit. It tingles a little, and you can probably look at it and there's still like a little indentation, right? But right now, if you're rubbing it, can you feel it? Is the pain pretty much gone? I want you to realize that that's like our feelings. We feel something, and a lot of times we hold on to it. But we have to make the decision, first of all, we have to become aware of the fact that we're holding on to this. It's only until we recognize, you know what, I am not going to keep holding on to my finger because it hurts. It's the same thing with feelings. If I have a feeling, I'm responsible for being aware of it and then letting it go. Now that's easier said than done, isn't it? Because a lot of times we want to hold on to something like death grips, like those resentments. You know, we probably have resentments from years gone back. And what good does it do us? It's the same thing with holding on to your finger. Does it do you any good to hold on to your finger? When the pain gets great enough, you're going to let go, aren't you? It's the same thing with your feelings. When you become aware of your feelings, because think about it, feelings aren't facts, are they? They're just feelings. How many of you were taught how not to feel? Don't feel anger. Don't feel frustration. Don't feel this. Don't feel that. Was anybody taught that way? You know, when we're kids, you know, sometimes they're saying, just suck it up. Don't feel that. Don't cry. I'll give you something to cry about. Whatever the case is. The bottom line is that a feeling, we have to feel it, walk through it, and then move through it. But it's up to us if we're going to feel that feeling or not. It's just like anything. We have to be able to process that and become aware of it, not blame it off on somebody else. Because if I blame you for how I feel, then I'm never responsible, am I? So if you all are responsible for me being angry, then I'm going to just let you guys be responsible for it, and then I never have to deal with it. But then who actually suffers for that? Me and you. Okay? So my thing is that you have to think about, become aware of the fact is, what is this feeling doing for me? Is this something that I want to consistently do? Or do I want to let it go? You know, sometimes we have to become aware of those feelings and just feel it. You felt that pain that you were holding on to, right? You have to be willing, become aware of it, and then let it go. Feelings are no different. But again, it's becoming aware of those things. It's saying, I am responsible for choosing to let go of this, or I'm responsible for how I'm thinking. Our thoughts are the same way. How many of you woke up this morning, looked at yourselves in the mirror, and said, hey, I look great today? Uh-huh. Yeah. Was anybody looking at themselves in the mirror and giving themselves a big pat on the back saying, you look great? No. What were the things that you were telling yourselves? Honestly, what were some things? I mean, come on, we all have said those things before. What do we say to ourselves? What messages are you telling yourself?
I'm probably going to gain tonight.
I'm probably going to gain tonight. Uh-huh. What else? A lot of negative things, aren't they? Do you think that we're going to do anything positive for ourselves when we're holding on to those negative messages? So if we tell ourselves, oh, I look gross, or I don't look good, or I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to do that, what do we just talk about? Whatever we think about, we bring about. So if I give myself negative self-concepts, if I tell myself something negative, am I going to do anything positive? No. I'm going to do whatever I tell myself. And a lot of times, again, it goes back to that responsibility. It's easier for me to blame it on something else. Just like if you said, oh, I'm going to gain tonight. In your mind, you're going to be saying, okay, whatever that is, I'm going to gain because of this. Or I'm going to, I don't look good because of this. We want to look for every single thing outside of ourselves. In the weeks to come, we talk a lot about self-esteem and, using food as different emotional tools and different things like that. But for tonight, what I really want you to get on the whole awareness is about is our thinking. Because if we hold on to those negative thoughts, that's what's going to happen. It all starts in here. It's just like anything. If you're struggling, and I heard some people saying, it's hard for me to get all the meals in, or it's difficult with the food or whatever. Whatever you think, if you think that the food is difficult, it will become difficult. If you think that you're not going to be able to get to the gym 4 days, 5 days a week, you won't be able to get to the gym 4 days a week. Again, you're going to almost convince yourself to believe whatever it is that you want to believe. Because we are the only people that listen to ourselves 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. Our thoughts and our feelings and our messages come clear louder and louder and louder. Okay? So what we have to do is we have to first and foremost become aware of what we're thinking. So whatever it is that you're thinking right now, you have to ask yourself, do I want to continue and think this way? Are my thoughts more positive or negative? Do you think it's easier for people to be positive or negative? Negative. Yeah, because negative, it's we compare ourselves, there's all kinds of stuff. It takes effort for us to be positive, doesn't it? Because we might think positive, we say, wow, today's going to be a great day. And then something will happen, and then everything breaks down, okay? For an example, all of you, if you had a great day at work today, for those of you that had off or whatever the case was, you had a great day. You go home tonight, there's dishes piled up in the sink, the kids have made a mess out of everything, the dog has shredded up newspapers, your house is a disaster. What do you think is going to happen to your mood? What's going to happen to your great positive day? It's going to fastly go down, isn't it? It's going to become negative. Again, we do that because it's easier for us to blame external things rather than saying, okay, I'm not going to feel these feelings just because something negative has happened. Or if you go home and your significant other is in a bad mood. Now this is a really good one, and it happens to all of us. You're in a great mood. You go home, either your significant other or your kids are in a bad mood, and you become what? You jump on that bandwagon with them, don't you? Why is that? Why do you think that we jump on that bandwagon? Why do we give...
Maybe because it's harder to convince them that there's some positive going on.
Okay.
I don't know.
I think it's partly defensive
It's defensive? Uh-huh.
And easier, like you said, it's easier to go with the mood.
It's easier to go on the moon. Okay, let me ask you a question. Most of you know I'm a counselor and I have my own private practice. What would happen if one of you came to see me and you started crying and you were hysterical and I became hysterical crying with you? Would I be helping any of you? No. What would happen if every single patient who came in to see me and they had all these problems, I took on all their problems? What would happen to me then? Yeah, Susie would be admitting me somewheres, okay? The bottom line is that I can't feel somebody else's feelings. And it doesn't help me to jump into your feelings with you, okay? So a lot of times when we think, okay, well, it's easier to join them. No, it's not helping them at all. So if I'm in a great mood and somebody's in a negative mood and I say, okay, well, let me get negative with them, that's not going to help pull that person up. The best thing that we can do is we can do what is they call detachment. And detaching from somebody is saying, you have your feelings, I have my feelings. I can let you have your feelings, not try to fix them, not try to change them, just allow you to have them. Because if I'm responsible for my own thoughts and feelings, then who's responsible for your thoughts and feelings? You are. My job is not to fix or to make somebody feel better, because I can't make anybody do anything, can I? I can contribute to other people's thoughts and feelings, but I can't make you guys do anything. Just like right now, I'm providing you with a lot of information and a lot of food for thought, am I not? Can I make it sink into your head and fit and work? No. Sometimes people, believe it or not, have said, Kelly, you're in my head and I hear your voice all the time. But the bottom line is that usually doesn't happen. You are going to be responsible for whatever you take from what I say. All right? It's just like anything else. I can't make you feel or think any thoughts. I can give you the information and it's up to you to change that. So that's the same thing with somebody else. If I go home and my significant other is in a bad mood and I jump right in there with him, it's not going to change anything. It's probably going to make it worse. So by me thinking I'm going to help him, I'm actually making it worse because I'm just prolonging that thing, other than saying, you know what? Looks like you had a really bad day. Why don't you go just take some time to yourself and, I'm here if you need to talk. Instead of jumping in there. It's just like anything. I can go on that hamster wheel with them, but it's not going to change anything, does it? So again, we might be thinking that we're helping somebody, but we're really not. We're actually hurting the situation. We have to be responsible for how we react. So we're talking about our feelings and we're talking about our thoughts. Our actions are no different. Just because somebody else is doing something, we don't have to do it with them, do we? How many times as children we've heard, well, if your friends were jumping off a bridge, would you jump with them? No. Just because somebody else can do something, it doesn't mean that that's going to work for us. Again, we have to become responsible for how we think, for how we feel, for what we do and what we believe. We can be influenced by other people, and other people can contribute things to us, but ultimately it's up to us. All right? So that's the first thing. The first key is awareness. You have to become aware of those things that you're thinking. Some of the things that we have to think about is, what are the tips or what are the ways that we can change our thinking? It's easy for us to say, okay, I want to be a positive thinker, isn't it? We can all sit here and say, I'm going to think positive now. But then life is going to happen, isn't it? We have to catch ourselves and we have to become aware of the words that we're saying. Some of the words that we use all the time is I can't, I should, or, and I love this one, I'll try. How many of you have said, I'll try? A lot of you, okay? I'm going to give you an example. Why do you think that we say that we're going to try to do something? Try is actually probably one of the most negative words out there, by the way. Because we're not sure if we can. Why else do we say that we're going to try? It gives us an excuse if we don't. It's an easy way out, isn't it? Okay? So say for an example, Susie invites me to a together at her home. And she's having, 4 couples over. And she says, Kelly, I'd love for you to come over. And I say, oh, Susie, I'll try to make it. Okay? Now, why am I saying, now, in my own mind, in my heart, I'm not going to be able to make it. And I know that. So I'm saying that I'm going to try. Why? I don't want to hurt her feelings. Okay? And it's an easy way out, right? So I say, oh, yes, Susie, thanks. I'll try. I'll try to make it. So Susie prepares, to have me and my partner there. So 3 couples show up. It's, dinner party started at 7, It's now 7:15, 7:30, still no Kelly. 7:30, quarter to 8 rolls around. How do you think Susie's feeling right now? She's feeling hurt. What else is she? She's pretty mad, isn't she? Now, so what would be better? So my initial thing of I'll try to do something was to avoid her feeling hurt. But have I avoided her feelings at all? No. I've actually made them worse, haven't I? So would I want somebody to do that to me? No. I would rather somebody say, Susie, thank you so much for the invitation. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it. Now, she might be disappointed because I'm not able to make it, but who's it up to feeling disappointed? Is that my responsibility or is that on Susie? It's on Susie because I can't make her feel any certain way. I can only take responsibility for my own feelings and actions. So when I say I'll try, I really have to stop myself and say, you know what? That's not accurate. Again, it's catching yourself because, again, you're thinking that you're trying to avoid somebody feeling some way, but it's not your job to control other people's feelings because you can't do it. You can't make somebody feel hurt. You can contribute to those feelings, but you can't make it happen. Does that make sense? Okay? So again, we have to become aware of that. I always say, treat people the way you want to be treated. So if somebody says that they're going to do something and you say, well, I'll try to do it. How many of you have said you're going to try to lose weight before? How many of you said you're going to try to make it to the gym? All these things. Do you do it? No. It's your way out. It's you not taking responsibility. Sometimes it really is that simplistic. The best thing that you can do is be honest with inside of yourself. And when you say, I'll try, stop yourself. Oh, become aware of that. That is one of those big words. If you hear yourself saying it, please do me the favor. If you have nothing else of what I say tonight, erase that thought from your words, okay? Did I say that right? Yeah. Erase that word from your vocabulary, okay? The other thing is I can't. I can't do that. You're right, you won't. So when I say I can't, you're absolutely correct. You won't. So again, becoming aware of that. Disregard some of those other negative thoughts that you hold on to. You know, all that negative stuff that you go over and over and over in your mind. How many of you obsess about feelings that really, or thoughts that really don't have any meaning for you? Get rid of them. Because it does you no good to hold on to that. That is not going to be productive for you. If you tell yourself, I can't do this, I can't do that, you won't be able to. Okay, that's one of the biggest things. The other thing that I always tell people is you have to clearly visualize in your mind what you want your results to be. Clearly. You have to know what the outcome is for you. This is where I always talk about this whole program. I've been doing this for 4 years, and I've been in the weight loss industry for close to 20 years. I've been doing this since 1988. And a lot of times, we will come up with a lot of different reasons why we do what we do. If you don't have a good enough why, then you may not be as successful as you'd like to be. So you have to ask yourself, why am I doing this right now in my life? If you're doing it just to lose weight, I'm going to strongly encourage you to rethink that. Okay, remember when in the very beginning of the program we talked about that three-legged stool? All right? So what I want you to think about, if you say, you know, I'm doing this program just to lose weight, I want you to stand on one leg and see how long you can stand there for. Now, I can probably stand here for a little while, you know, but how long do you think we're going to stand there for? And I'm still on one leg, for those of you that can't see, okay? The bottom line is I can only stand on for a little bit, and eventually I might cheat and put my leg against the podium, okay? But ultimately, I can only stand on one leg for a little bit. The bottom line is if we just focus on losing weight, do you think that that's a positive or a negative? Why is it a negative? Okay. Because we should be doing it for our health. Why else? Why else is just losing weight a negative? It's a lifestyle change. It's a lifestyle change? Uh-huh. Why else? Exactly. And for those of you that didn't hear, if you focus on just losing weight, then you're never going to be satisfied. You're going to just keep focusing on losing that weight. All right? I'm going to give you a story of different things in a second, but when we focus on just losing weight, what happens for all of you if you focused on just losing weight? You go in for weigh-in tonight, and that number hasn't changed, how do you think you're going to feel? You're not going to feel good, are you? You're going to feel defeated. What are some of the messages that you're going to be telling yourself?
Why am I wasting my time?
Why am I wasting my time? I shouldn't have had that piece of pie. I should have done this. I should have done that. Will you not? Because you're going to get discouraged, aren't you? If we just focus on that number is not the whole goal. That's why I want you to think about, what is your focus? Really, if you think about it, why are you doing what you're doing? If it's just to see that number change, that's not going to be what is going to be good for you. We had a person who did TriFit. Well, it was actually called ProFit back then. And she actually went through the program 2 times. And her goal was to lose like 130 pounds. And I'm not exactly sure of the exact numbers. But when she first started the program, she was like, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to feel great. It's going to make my self-esteem change. It's going to fix my marriage. My family is going to be better. Everything in my life is going to be great. So by me losing this weight, I'm going to feel better, and my life is going to be 100% better. She went through the program twice. She lost like 119 pounds. And then she hit this plateau. And she came to see me and she said, Kelly, I can't reach that goal. My goal is to lose 130 pounds and I'm stuck at 119. And I don't know what's wrong with me. And so the more and more we started talking, we realized that in her mind, what did you hear me say that she had said? That everything in her life was going to be what? Great, by having that number change. What happened was nothing in her life had changed. Everything actually got worse. Her self-esteem was still tanked. Her marriage was even worse than it ever had been. But in her mind, she thought, if I lose weight, everything is going to be great. And nothing changed. So just losing weight doesn't make everything in our lives better if we just focus on that. So do you see in her situation? And she couldn't even be excited over the fact that she had lost 119 pounds. Couldn't even get excited. She felt like she was a failure. And what had happened is that psychologically she started sabotaging herself. And so she never allowed herself to reach that goal weight because that goal weight indicated that everything in her life was going to get better. That's how strong our mind is. It will stop you each and every time. And what actually happened is then she started sabotaging and she started eating more and she was actually gaining weight then. So that's what we have to think about. So when we focus just on that number, or if we say, I just want to get into a size blank, or if I just want to do this, you're missing out on a whole world out there, okay? So what you want to think about is, what is my goal? Looking at that stool, and I'm thinking that there's a stool over there, if you think about that 3-legged stool, there's 3 parts to it, isn't it? It's the food part, it's the exercise, and it's the behaviors. Nowhere on that stool does it say weight. What happens, do you think, when you are on a healthy eating plan? What happens, do you think, when you add exercise into your life? And what happens when you combine that with changing your thoughts to more positive? What do you think the end result is going to be?
Become less obsessive over the weight.
And what happens? And then you actually are losing weight. Yeah. So the thing is that when you're doing all those right things are going to start happening. If you are, eating healthy and you're making good choices and you're giving your body energy, you're going to the gym, you're exercising, you're doing all kinds of stuff, and your thoughts are changing and you're more positive, the end result will be you're going to lose weight. But if you focus just on that number, or if you focus just on the food, you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot. Because then you're going to be very discouraged when that doesn't happen. It's the same thing, with our food plans. How many of you have been on, diets before? How many of you think that this is a diet? Good. If you, I said that and then I saw a hand raised afterwards. The thing is that what do you think of when you think of diet? Restriction. What else? Short term. What else? What? A Band-Aid. Think about the word diet. What are the first 3 letters? Die. Oh my gosh. I'm dying. Don't we think that way? I know when in the past when I've like starved myself or whatever, I think that way. You're restricting yourself. You can't have this, you can't have that. Do you remember, did Karen come and speak to them, Susie, or no? Okay, we have this success story that has done our program, and she talks all the time about, and she's been very successful with the program, and she doesn't restrict herself from anything. She literally, and if you ever hear her talk, you'll know, she eats out every day, 3 times a day. She travels the world. She's always on cruises, and when she first came onto our program, she goes, I'm only going to do this if it fits into my lifestyle. And we were like, okay. Anything can fit if you want it to fit, can it? So she did this program. In a year, I think she's lost 80 pounds. She eats out not once, not twice, 3 times a day. And she also cruises. I mean, she was gone for 6 weeks just a couple months ago. So she's not somebody that just, is sitting at home preparing her meals. The bottom line is that she doesn't restrict herself. If you are so focused on just the food, and if you do something that, like say for an example, you're following a healthy eating plan and you slip up and you have a piece of cake. What do you normally tell yourself if you slip up and you have that piece of cake?
Shoot me now.
Shoot me now. What else? What else do you tell yourself?
I blew it.
I blew it. I can't believe I did it again. Forget it. Now I'm just going to eat the whole cake. Don't you? Again, our thoughts, aren't they? Those are the thoughts that we think. Guess what, you guys? You are not going to do this perfectly. You won't. So you can just, say, Kelly just gave me permission not to do this perfect, because you're never going to. It's eating healthy. It's making choices. But you know what? It's just like life. We goof up, don't we? None of us are perfect. We can't walk on water. So when we say to ourselves, okay, I messed up and I had a piece of cake, is it the end of the world? No. Do you have to, you don't have to do anything crazy with that. Sometimes we just have to say, you know what, I just had a piece of cake. What do you think is worse? Having that piece of cake or the negative thoughts that you tell yourself about that cake?
The negative thoughts.
The negative thoughts. Or even if you say, okay, I just had that piece of cake, so now I got to get on the treadmill for another 45 minutes. Okay? The bottom line is it's still you're still reinforcing negative, aren't you? If you say to yourself, okay, I had a piece of cake, not that big a deal. Let it go. Again, let go of the finger. You're not going to be perfect. If you give yourself that negative message, if you say, well, forget it, I screwed up again, I'm off the wagon now, I'm just going to go off and binge, I'm going to gain weight anyway, so who cares? That is that self-defeating attitude that will defeat you each and every time. Again, the more you beat yourself up about that, the worse it's going to be. That's such a huge, huge, huge thing. It's essential for you not to focus on just one specific area. Because what will happen is it'll happen just like you've done it before. If you focus just on what you're eating, then that's all you're going to get. If you focus just on the exercise, that's all you're going to get. If you focus just on the behaviors, that's all you're going to get. You have to look at all 3 of them, and you have to balance that out. Am I giving equal attention to all 3 of those things? What do you think is the one area that we give the least attention to? Honestly. Our behaviors. And what is the first thing that trips us up? Our behaviors. Again, we don't want to do what? Take control and responsibility. It all comes down to that. We have to look at, okay, I am responsible for the choices that I make right now. If I want to be successful with this program, then the first thing that needs to change is what? Me. I am responsible. It's not my kid's fault that I overate this weekend. It's not my husband or my wife's fault. It's not the dog's fault. It's not because I had a bad day at work. It's because I chose to. Take that responsibility. When you choose something, then you don't have to keep holding on to it. Because then you say, you know what, okay, I made a choice to have something that wasn't on my food plan. All right, I did it, and I can let it go. Holding on to it and digging those claws in isn't going to change it. That's actually going to make it worse. All right, again, taking responsibility for how we think. That is the first step, is becoming aware of that. How we create that positive outcome is it starts with the self-talk. Your self-talk will lead to your feelings. Your feelings are going to lead to your beliefs, and your beliefs are going to lead to the outcomes. So So whatever you start by telling yourself, that's going to be the outcome. So if you want positive things to happen in your life, then you've got to start telling yourself positive things. If you want to start seeing an improvement in yourself, then you really have to start thinking about the messages that you tell yourself. It all starts by the things that we tell ourselves. So when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, be aware of that. What did our parents used to tell us? If you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. Okay? That is the key right there. Whatever you tell yourself, you are going to believe. And before we get started with questions, I'm going to give you an example of this to be true. 12 and a half years ago when I had my son, and I gained 69 pounds when I had him. And I'm not very big. I'm only 5'2". Well, when I went into the delivery room, I was 189 pounds. I had him, and I was doing a weight management program at the time. I mean, I was training. I was teaching just like I teach you guys right now. And after I had him, and I was really down on myself. And I was looking at myself, and I'd be like, ugh, I just feel disgusting, and I just feel gross, and I'd look at myself in the mirror, and I'd be like, my legs are huge, my stomach, everything. And I just felt yucky. And I felt like a hypocrite. And I was sitting there thinking, wow, here I am getting up and talking to people every week about changing their thoughts and positiveness and this and that. And I felt like, what a hypocrite, Kelly, you are. And so one day I was sitting there and I was looking at my son. I was actually nursing him, and I looked down at him and I said, what an amazing gift. I started, being philosophical and started thinking about things, and I said, I never once told my body to grow this baby inside of me. I never once told my body to develop its head, its legs, its arms, give it life, nothing. My body is pretty amazing, isn't it? When you think about it. And so then I started thinking even more. I never have to tell myself to feel. I just feel automatically. I never tell my heart to beat. I never tell the blood to go through my veins. Our bodies are pretty incredible, aren't they? So I was thinking, if my body is so incredible, why do I keep putting it down so much? Why do I keep telling myself that I'm nothing when I'm pretty incredible? So I said, you know what? I'm going to take a lesson from myself, and I'm going to start telling myself what I tell everybody else. And so every time I looked at myself in the mirror, I said, my body doesn't need to be perfect to be wonderful. I told myself that every day, day in, day out. Every time I got out of the shower, I never focused on my arms. I didn't focus on my stomach, my legs, nothing. I just said, my body doesn't need to be perfect to be wonderful. I will tell you, I delivered my son on August 29th. By November, Thanksgiving of that same year, 3 months later, I had lost all my weight and I was back in my clothes. I did not go on any kind of crazy food plan. I didn't go back to the gym. I'm glad that there's no exercise people in here. But all I did is I walked around the neighborhood with him. I ate healthy. And breastfeeding didn't hurt. But the bottom line is that it was the messages that I told myself. I focused on positive things and not negative things. I focused on the good that my body produced rather than focusing on how negative it was. And within 3 months, I was back in my clothes. True story. I have pictures to prove it. Okay? The thing is that means more than anything. So again, I was doing the different things. I was eating healthy. I was also just walking around but not going crazy with exercise. But it was the messages. So I was actually doing that 3-legged stool and didn't even realize it. That's what made the difference for me. And so I say that to you because I'm living proof that it does work. But if you give yourself that negative self-talk, that's what's going to happen to you as well. So whatever messages that you're telling yourself, that's the outcome that it's going to be. So in closing, I want you to really be aware of what you're telling yourself in those messages. And are the messages to yourself positive or negative? Because whatever they are, that's going to be the outcome. Okay, in a second, we're going to go ahead and get started with some questions. Use this time to ask me any questions that you may have. Okay, and Susie's going to go around any questions that you can think of anything that we've talked about tonight. Nothing? Have I given you guys a lot of things to think about? Didn't I tell you that I would? Uh-huh. If any of you do have anything that comes up for you personally that you don't want to talk about, in front of anybody else, please feel free to get me after class if you do want to talk about anything. Things will come up over the course of this program that you may need to talk to somebody, and I'm always here and available for you guys. All right? All right. If that's it, we'll see you at weigh-in.